Prices worse about Venezuela once again to make important thanks. They removed the 1,000 market called monetary awareness. All right, RTD news update. Got a couple of interesting stories to share with you guys with some great visual aids. So I want to take a quick minute to check in before we go live for the People's Talk Show to basically point you in the direction of some information that I think definitely will help further the light being shined upon what's happening in the world in regards to the whole New World Order transition, and especially to do with the BRICS nation. So titled this, basically, is it time for the BRICS to cut on the light, referring to the linking of the whole crypto space with gold. And so I got a couple of things I want to share with you briefly. And then, of course, I'll put them down in the video description area so you guys can read for yourself. But as always, if you guys want to see more detailed content of this magnitude, definitely hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification. Share this information so more people can find out the importance of gold and more in-depth insight into what's really going on. So before I actually start, I want to share with you briefly a video that was shared to me by one of the community members. And I want to basically point you into the direction of where this originated from. And as always, I'm kind of running behind, so give me a second. I'm going to put it on the screen. But you guys will be able to see and hear what I'm referring to. So this is a video here by Jim Rickers referring to some inside information that was given to him, which I think, Jim Rickers has been on the inside because he more than likely is an insider or a probably puppet that's been used or allowed to be used to reveal information. But this right here plays into what I'm about to uncover with some of this information I'm about to share. So listen to this little video.
Put the gold on the pallet, fly it in a plane to the other guy, and he puts it in his vault. End of story. And Steve knows better than anyone. When you do things on net instead of gross, it's a much smaller transaction. If you had to pay for everything with gross gold, that's unwieldy. But if you keep score in crypto and then settle up on net, every 6 months or so, that works fine. Now notice everything I just said, there's no dollar. And that was Doug's point. Are we looking at the dethroning of the dollar? If we've got gold, Putin's crypto, Xi crypto, a distributed ledger, and a large trading network that does not involve dollars, does not involve SWIFT, is that the beginning of the end of the dollar? And it might be.
All right, so there you have it. You got all these nations with gold, with cryptos. You put all that together, that's a hell of a mix. And I'm going to share with you some information that I think is relevant to what's going on because it originates from what appears to be the BRICS Council. And I actually spent the last hour or two diving through some white papers and had a chance to uncover a lot of interesting lingo that parallels what we're experiencing now. And of course, you factor in some of the crypto buzzwords along with the gold, you got a heck of a story. But once again, this is stuff that's probable for the future. We'll see, but I'll let you guys do the deciphering for yourself. But let me jump right in to what's going on here. So on the screen here, let me put this up here. On the screen here, it's an article that pretty much summarizes a white paper. And so actually I'll go to the white papers first. And so let me grab these white papers. So here is a white paper that I came across that does a great job of describing, in detail, the idea of de-risking and de-dollarizing intra-BRICS trade via smart contracts. And when you thumb through this 16-page document, it gives you a lot of interesting insight as to how the author of this, who is a member of the academia realm, and how they basically paint a good picture as to how they can and possibly will in the near future basically utilize this whole blockchain space side of things. And of course, they use examples from digital yuan as a primary focus, but it has to do with the possibility and the likelihood of them already having developed their own networking payment system. And of course, the other day I touched on the BRICS Pay, and this is also a part of this. But lots of interesting things here, basically referring to the new international payment system, which is some of the graphs I'm going to show you in a minute. But as you go through here, it gives you a lot more insight. So I just want to bring this to your attention so you'll be aware as to where you can find this additional information. But ultimately, it deals with laying out some of the foundational pieces to setting up their own network and why it's important. And it has to do with the whole sanctions model. So this is, as I mentioned, 16-page white paper. And then another white paper has to do with, let me grab this here. Let me see, where is it at? Let me see here. I don't have it in this link here, but I'll link it down below. But ultimately, it just talks about trying to further the de-dollarization process and how they're going to accomplish that. But to keep it moving right along, I want it to be short and concise, but they basically cram as much information as I can into it and point you back to the sources that provide this with some visual aids on top of it. And so here is the article that can give you insight. It says, how U.S. sanctions are fostering innovative strategies for resiliency in Russia. And this has to do with the development right after the whole 2014 situation with the U.S. and dealing with Crimea, and how Russia ultimately, they've already set up their SPFS, which I've touched on before, as well as their mirror payment system, and the reasons why and more details, and how it's already fully functional right now. Whether it's not being used heavily, not quite sure, but it's already available to use on top of the other nations that have developed their protocols as well. And then this right here is a summary of one of those white papers I'm referring to. And then here's the next one here, barriers to de-dollarization within the BRICS. And so this is another summary to the second white paper that I was referring to. And it gives more insights as well, as I mentioned, lots of things worth touching on, and definitely an interesting read. But to summarize these two up in more visual representations, let me actually get to some of the visual aids here. And before I do that, just to let you guys know, this is a article that came out on CoinDesk in 2019. No, I'm sorry, Cointelegraph, and it says BRIC nations discuss shared crypto to break away from the USD and SWIFT. And of course, gold was mentioned in this particular case here. And so this is 3 years ago. So it's good to say if it was mentioned then, by the time the mainstream news hit the airways, it's already old news, which will let me know that the probability of them having already set something up is pretty much set in stone, in my opinion. But to keep it moving, let me share with you those visual aids I'm referring to now. So here is one visual aid that it's an exact breakdown of some of the details within those white papers that I found on the internet, which someone put together. And it ultimately shows, the CBDC with the big BRICS countries, rather. And it shows here this NSRT wasn't actually able to further break that down and verify that. But this is just a visual way to give you an idea of the structural model of those white papers. So here you see the 5 nations here, and each one of these smaller coins here represents their own internal payment networks that this next visual laid out, it'll show even more. So this is each nation's current payment structure that's already up and running, and it shows the interlinking of their payment structures, possibly in the near future or perhaps already done. Not quite sure, but it just gives a good layout. And it says here, geographical layout of settlements through the new international payment system. Remember when I first started off, I talked about the NIPS or NIPS, or the new international payment structure. But if you look here, you have China with their Union Pay, which will probably be using the digital yuan. And of course, the Asian market and the banks are related to it. Then here you have PASA, which is out of South Africa. And of course, the same structure, the Africa Plus, all the inner workings of how it'll work within their economies domestically. Then you got the local banks and whatnot. Then you have here Elo, which is a Brazilian payment network, which just went public last year, 2021. And what makes it even more suspicious about Elo, or this bottom bank here, is that they partner with, I think it was 6. So they use 6 globally systemic important banks here in the U.S. to be their joint partners in listing their IPO, I believe, on possibly the American exchanges. Not 100% sure, but it's a relatively newer payment network that's done by Brazil in collaboration with the GSIBs. So that's self-concern. And then you have the MIR, which is the Russian payment network that I've talked about earlier in the week, and all of the other infrastructure settlement things with the Belarus, as well as the European Asian economic infrastructure, which is a EAEC plus, which basically encompasses all the former Soviet Union countries all in one. And if you go through the white papers, it gives you more details as to how the whole Eurasian bloc, which is Russia's primary focal point, how it's pivotal to work in conjunction with the Chinese Belt and One Road initiative. And according to the white papers in the details, they talk about how they're planning to joint those two together in furthering their monetary order, utilizing this current networking system here. So just something worthwhile. And then the RuPay, this is out of India. And so RuPay is a banking network. So, you get the idea. You got China, you got South Africa, you got Brazil, you have Russia, you have India. And this is their little BRICS Pay, which I talked about the other day, and how they're going to utilize the interoperability using the whole crypto sector, digital asset space right here to couple all this together. And so just keep this in mind. And then the next one here, this is the bread and butter, I think, of the entire layout, because this is how the inner workings of this router clouds area that I'm highlighting right here, this is possibly how this might work. So as you guys can see here, I'll zoom in a little bit, make it a little bit more visible. But on the screen here, you see a structure of what looks like every single element that of the financial sector presently that we have now, but then reinvented or transformed or evolved into an entirely new representation utilizing the digital ledger technology, aka blockchain, aka various protocols. And of course, all this information is detailed out. It's written out in details within the white papers that I've mentioned. So of course, I'll make sure to link those down below. But as you can see here in the core center of this, it's a oracle, as the white paper says, referring to, for those that are in the crypto space, what the oracles are. And of course, Chainlink is the primary oracle that will be used as the kind of the gatekeeper between the digital ledger protocol type processes on the outside, the oracle in the middle, referring to Chainlink, and then utilizing the smart contract format with Ethereum, possibly. This is all just a preemptive type stuff. Not sure if it's official, but it says the BRICS private Ethereum smart contract hub. So keep in mind, I think there's an important reason why Ethereum is moving from proof of work to proof of stake. And it has nothing to do with the whole climate change and the energy concerns. It's more to do with the fact that proof of stake allows individual nations, countries, institutions to have a say-so over their own blockchain, whether it's public or private. And of course, in this case here, it will be private, so the world wouldn't be able to see it. But then again, it'll allow the institutions to have a vested interest by being able to stake those private coins within their own individual wallets, allowing the banking structure to profit off of the securing the network, as it's referred to. So mind you, that's something to keep in mind, because Ethereum is another, it's not a sleeper, but it's definitely being used in a way that I think we're going to find out is not necessarily in the best interest of the people. But just more information here. So here we have the contract setup. This, of course, detailed in the white paper I referred to. You got cargo tracking. You got the central bank foreign exchange interest rates. You got currency volatility, which is inflation risk. Instead of the hedging options, and of course, you have the commodities prices. And so the BRICS Commodities Exchange. What are the commodities I'm referring to? Could this be gold? It's a possibility, as well as other metals or whatnot. Hedging options, interbank forex, all the fine-tuned, detailed things needed to run a financial structure for the future. Of course, they're going to be using the APIs, which allows all the institutions to link up to them with just a seamlessly, dropping some code in your browser type of thing, type of ease. And so here we got on the other side of this, we have the distributed ledgers as a result of all this activity that's being taken place by these institutions. And then it'll provide settlement systems, in different phases and things of that matter. So it says transacting parties equals central banks, commercial banks, traders via commercial bank accounts, and the BRICS investors. And of course, there's more to that as well. But here is just some basic framework as to the infrastructure for the possibility of the BRICS nations rolling out some type of contract-based, smart contract-based platform utilizing gold as an underlying anchor, because it also, in the white papers, it goes a lot more in depth into some of the details of reestablishing trust, and it has to do with, currency reverse assets and all types of things like that. But anyway, I just wanted to shine some light on the subject matter because there is a possibility that the BRICS nations have already built the infrastructure that would allow them, as you guys can see on the thumbnail, to hit the switch, which would basically cut on the light utilizing technology. But yet, once again, as I always said, all this information here, none of it is new in nature. It was all part of a much bigger plan. And just to show you one more time before I log off and get ready for the live stream, uh, just keep in mind that all this technology that's been utilized, it benefits them greatly. And at the same time, we were told that around this time frame here, that there will be a new world currency introduced. And of course, I have more information I'm going to bring to you probably tomorrow, talking about XRP. And once again, the deeper you dive, the more information you find. But anyway, I'm going to stop it there. As always, curious to hear what you guys think about this. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, click that bell notification so you'll be informed. And more importantly, come back and join us on the live portions and share your 2 cents and let me know where I missed it or where I might, be completely far gone. I'm okay with that. But anyway, be blessed, be safe. See you guys later. Peace.